I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this, honestly. Corinne and I had been married for almost 8 years. We had the usual ups and downs, but I always believed we had something solid. She was the kind of woman who could be bitchy and dismissive one second, then all smiles and sweetness the next. Still, I thought that was just her personality, a little sharp around the edges but nothing I couldn't handle. We had our routines, our quiet weekends, a house in the suburbs and 2 kids we loved more than anything. But everything changed after the tornado hit our town. The storm was huge, a real disaster that tore through everything. It left parts of the community flattened and people displaced. I remember feeling shock, disbelief, trying to pick up the pieces with everyone else. Corinne was unusually clingy during that time, especially when she started spending nights at the emergency shelter. She volunteered there, which I thought was noble at first. But then I noticed something strange. She was secretive, hiding her phone, and acting defensive whenever I asked her questions about her whereabouts or who she was talking to. At first, I brushed it off as stress. Who wouldn't be on edge after something like that? But then I started noticing other things, small clues. Her phone was always locked now, and she'd get defensive if I tried to look. She'd leave her phone on the bedside table but with the screen dark and quickly grab it when I moved closer. She was busy, she said, overwhelmed with the chaos and trying to help others. Yet I saw her sneaking off to meet with friends from the shelter, or so she claimed. That's when I began to suspect that something was off. One night I caught her in a lie about where she'd been. She told me she was at the shelter helping with the family reunification effort. But I found her phone ringing in her purse with a message from some guy named Mike. "Can't wait to see you again." I didn't even realize I was holding my breath until I saw it. My stomach dropped. My mind raced. Who the hell was Mike? Why was she hiding this from me? I felt an immediate knot tighten in my chest. I wanted to believe she was just being friendly, just talking. But the way she was acting, defensive, evasive, guilty, told me otherwise. That was the moment I knew. I didn't want to confront her right then. I needed to gather more evidence to understand what I was really dealing with. It wasn't just a little secret anymore. It was something much darker. I felt a strange mix of fury and heartbreak, like I'd been punched in the gut. How could she do this? After all we'd been through, after everything the community had endured, how could she find comfort or distraction in someone else's arms? I wondered if she even cared about me anymore, or if I'd been just another chapter in her game. I started paying closer attention. Her behavior became more conspicuous. She'd sneak her phone out of the house late at night, meet up with some guy, then come back acting like nothing had happened. I overheard her talking to someone about finding relief, saying she needed to feel alive again after the tornado, after all the trauma. That's when I realized she'd used the disaster as a connection point somehow, that the collective trauma we all experienced was her excuse, her reason to meet up with this Mike or whoever. It made me sick. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but I knew I couldn't ignore it anymore. The signs were just too loud. I had to do something. I started thinking about how I could catch her in the act, how I could finally get proof. I knew she'd lie her way out of it, she always did. But I also knew I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. That night, I sat in the dark, thinking about what I'd do next. Honestly, I felt betrayed, humiliated, and furious beyond belief. All I wanted was to protect what little was left of my dignity and figure out how to confront her without losing my mind. The next morning, I woke up with a pounding headache and a flood of rage and confusion swirling inside me. I knew I couldn't just pretend I didn't see what I saw or hear what I overheard. I had to face her, confront her, but I also knew I had to be smart about it. I didn't want her to just deny everything and walk over me. I needed proof, solid proof. So I could call her out and finally get some answers. I decided I'd follow her that evening when she went back to her volunteering at the shelter. I spent the day planning, watching her every move when she left for work, pretending to be normal while my mind raced through all the possibilities. I kept thinking about the moments she'd spend sneaking around, the excuses she'd make, how she'd lie just to cover her tracks. I started hiding my phone, carefully checking her schedule, making sure I had a way to catch her in the act if I needed to. I wanted to see her with my own eyes, not just rely on some text or a theory. That evening I was already tense as hell. I watched her leave the house, her usual bitchy attitude on display as she snapped at the kids about their homework. I waited until she was out of sight, then I followed her in my car, staying a few cars behind, trying not to make it obvious. She drove to the same part of town, into a small park near the shelter. I parked a few blocks away, watching her get out of her car and walked toward a secluded corner behind some trees. I saw a figure waiting there, a tall guy, probably late 20s, with scruffy hair and a nervous look on his face. Karen went right to him, and for a moment I thought I might faint. They hugged briefly, then she pulled him into an alley away from view. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I saw enough. They were kissing passionately, hands everywhere. It hit me like a train. My wife was cheating on me with a guy she met at the shelter, using the chaos, the disaster, as her excuse to find some kind of escape. I felt my stomach turn, my fists clenching as my mind spun. All those nights I sat worried, all those times I wondered if she really cared she was there with him, sneaking off. I was so furious I thought I might explode. I wanted to run over there, yell at them, drag her back to face me. But I stayed still, watching, trying to process the depth of her betrayal. I knew I had to be careful now. If she saw me, she'd just deny everything and I'd lose the only proof I had. So I waited until they separated, which took about 20 minutes before she got into her car and drove off. I followed her back home, heart pounding, feeling like I'd just been punched in the gut. Back at home, I felt numb. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat in the dark, replaying everything I saw, the way she kissed him, the way she touched him like she genuinely cared. It wasn't just a fling. It was something she needed, something she was hiding from me. All those times she claimed she was tired or overwhelmed, she was with him instead. I felt a mix of betrayal and heartbreak I didn't even know I was capable of. The worst part was knowing this wasn't just about sex. It was about her intimacy, her connection to someone else, a man she used her trauma as an excuse, a reason to find comfort outside our marriage. The community's disaster had become her escape route, her secret world with him. I kept thinking about the trust I lost, the years we shared, and how I'd been blind not to see it. Earlier, I kept wondering, what now? Do I confront her? Do I throw everything away? Do I even have a choice anymore after what I saw? The truth was clear now, I couldn't unsee it. And deep down, I knew the worst was yet to come. I had to decide whether to fight for my marriage or cut my losses. But right then, I also knew this was just the beginning of whatever hell I was about to face. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been run over by a truck. My mind kept circling back to what I saw the night before. Karen, sneaking off in the middle of the night, kissing that guy behind the shelter. I couldn't shake the image, her lips on his, the way she pressed her body into him like he was her salvation. It made me feel sick. I wondered how long this had been going on, how many nights she'd gone out and lied about where she was. I was furious, but underneath that, there was also this deep, aching sadness. I'd trusted her. I'd given her my life, my heart. And she'd thrown it all away for some guy she met in the chaos of a disaster. I knew I couldn't just let this go. I had to confront her, but I also had to be smart about it. I started planning my approach, trying to think of the right way to bring it up without just losing my mind. I wanted her to admit everything, no more lies, no more bullshit. I wanted her to look me in the eyes and tell me what she'd done. So I waited until she got home that evening, trying to stay calm, trying not to let my anger show. When she walked in, she was her usual bitchy self, barely acknowledging me. She tossed her purse on the counter and started snapping at me about dinner plans like nothing had happened. I held myself back, took a deep breath, and just looked at her. "We need to talk," I said, my voice steady but chilly. She rolled her eyes, giving me that dismissive look she always had when she didn't want to deal with something serious. "What now? I'm tired of your accusations, John." I didn't let her dismiss me. I pulled out the evidence, the message from Mike, the photo I took of her kissing him behind the shelter. Her eyes widened, and for a second she looked genuinely caught off guard. Then she snapped, "That's bullshit. You're seeing things, you're paranoid, it's just a stupid guy. It doesn't mean anything. We're all under stress after the tornado, you're overreacting." That's when I saw her true colors. The way she lied so easily, the way she dismissed everything I brought up. It infuriated me even more. How could she be so cold? So manipulative, I could see her trying to spin it to make me doubt myself. But I wasn't falling for it. I told her I knew the truth, that I followed her that night, that I saw her with him. Her face twisted into this bitchy sneer like she thought she could just talk her way out of it. Fine, she spat, if you're so convinced, what do you want from me? Her tone was almost mocking, like she enjoyed playing this game. I felt my blood boil. I told her I wanted the truth, everything. Who is he? How long has this been going on? I needed answers. Instead of giving me a straight answer, she kept lying, denied everything, threw in some bullshit about how she was stressed, how she needed someone to talk to because I was never there for her, especially after the disaster. She even said she was just comforting him, that she was just being some kind of good friend, like that somehow justified her actions. I could feel my rage rising. How dare she sit there and lie to my face? How dare she pretend this was just some innocent thing when I knew better? I told her I couldn't do this anymore, that I was done with her lies. I told her I deserved better than a wife who cheated behind my back, especially using our community's trauma as her excuse. Her eyes flashed with anger and she spat back. You're just jealous. You're insecure. You're making this all about you. But I still love you, John. I'm just trying to get through this mess. You're blowing everything out of proportion. That was the moment I realized she was beyond reasoning, that she wasn't going to admit the truth no matter what. I felt a mixture of disgust, heartbreak, and pure rage. I had to walk away, had to clear my head. I went outside, took deep breaths, and stared at the sky. I wondered how our marriage got to this point. How the woman I loved so much, who used to be so sweet and caring, could turn into this manipulative, lying bitch. I knew I had to make a decision whether to keep fighting for this or walk away. I had always believed in honesty, in commitment. But now, after everything I'd seen and heard, I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, ready to fall. I spent the night tossing and turning, trying to figure out what's next. All I knew was that I couldn't trust her anymore, and the pain of that realization was worse than I'd ever imagined. The following days were a blur of anger, confusion, and a deep sense of betrayal I couldn't shake. Every time I looked at Corinne, I saw the liar she had become, the woman who used our shared trauma as an excuse for her own selfish needs. I couldn't believe I had missed the signs for so long. How blind I had been, how naive to think we had some kind of true connection. The tornado had ripped through our town, destroying everything, but apparently it also ripped through my marriage, exposing the cracks I refused to see. I spent hours pacing the house, replaying every moment, every lie she told me, every time she dismissed my concerns. I knew I needed to do something more than just confront her. I needed to hit her where it mattered. I decided I'd follow her again, this time to see how far she was willing to go, how deep her betrayal really was. I started to set traps, hidden cameras, secretly installing spy apps on her phone, anything to gather more proof. I knew she'd try to cover her tracks, but I was determined to catch her red-handed and finally get the full picture. One evening I followed her again, this time more prepared. She left the house with her purse, a determined look on her face. I trailed her at a safe distance, parked a few blocks away, watching as she drove to a new location. She arrived at a rundown motel on the edge of town. My heart was in my throat. The sight of her entering that place made my stomach churn. I waited, trying to stay calm, pretending I wasn't waiting for the inevitable. Then I saw her come out about an hour later, her hair disheveled, her face flushed. She hurried into her car and I followed from afar, feeling like I was about to burst. When I finally got back home, I was raw with emotion. I confronted her again, ready for the final showdown. I pulled out the footage from the camera I'd hidden, showing her stepping into the motel with that guy, her lips pressed to his neck, her hands all over him. Her face turned ghostly pale. She tried to deny it, to spin some story about how she was just comforting him, how it was all innocent. But I knew better. I'd seen enough. I felt shattered, like I'd been punched in the chest. Her reaction was classic. She got defensive, accused me of stalking her, of spying on her like some crazy ex-husband. She spun lies about how she was just confused, that she didn't mean for anyone to find out. I could see the indignation in her eyes, the way she thought. She was entitled to do whatever she wanted, regardless of the damage it caused. I told her I'd had enough. I couldn't live with someone who betrayed me, who used our shared trauma as an excuse for her actions. I told her I was done with her lies, that I wanted her to leave. Her bitchy smirk was almost triumphant as she packed her bags, claiming she still loved me and that I was overreacting. That night, I sat alone in the empty house, feeling the weight of the betrayal settle deep into my bones. I couldn't sleep. All I could do was replay her words, her lies, the sight of her in that motel. I wondered how she could be so cold, so manipulative. Was there any part of her that truly loved me? Or had I been just a convenient fallback while she chased some fleeting thrill? I felt nothing but emptiness and the hollow ache of betrayal. The tornado had torn our town apart, but her lying, cheating heart had shattered whatever was left of my trust in her. In that moment, I made the decision that I couldn't fix this. I couldn't pretend I was okay with her sleeping around behind my back, using our shared pain as a cover-up. I knew I had to leave, not just for myself, but for my kids. I couldn't raise them in a house filled with lies and betrayal. I was angry, yes, but also relieved in a strange way. At least now I knew the truth. No more secrets, no more hiding. It was time to start over, even if that meant losing the woman I once loved. I've learned that sometimes the greatest act of love is walking away. The decision to leave wasn't easy, but it was necessary. After everything I'd uncovered, I knew I couldn't stay in a marriage built on lies and betrayal. I sat down with my kids, tried to explain what was happening in a way they could understand, told them I needed to take care of myself so I could be the father they deserved. It broke my heart to see their confused faces, but I knew it was the right thing to do. I told Corinne she needed to leave, and I meant it. I didn't want her anywhere near my house or my children after what she'd done. She fought me tooth and nail, tried to guilt-trip me, saying I was overreacting, that she loved me and only did it because she was hurting. She claimed she was confused, that she didn't mean to hurt me and that it was just a moment of weakness. But her words felt hollow, empty excuses, her bitchy attitude on full display. She kept telling me I was jealous, insecure, that I was just trying to control her. But I was. I was simply hurt, betrayed, and tired of her lies. I found a way to get her out of the house without making a scene, arranging for her to stay with a friend temporarily. The day she left, I felt a strange mixture of relief and grief. Relief because I finally knew the truth and didn't have to wonder anymore. Grief because, deep down, part of me still loved her, despite everything. I spent nights lying awake, trying to process all of it, trying to figure out what my future looked like without her. Over the next few weeks, I threw myself into rebuilding my life. I focused on my kids, making sure they felt loved and protected, while I started therapy to deal with the betrayal. I couldn't ignore the pain or pretend it didn't hurt. Every day was a battle between anger and sadness, but I knew I had to stay strong. I also cut ties with Corinne completely. Every message, every call, every attempt to reach out was ignored. I realized I owed her nothing anymore. She chose her path and I chose mine. In the end, I learned a lot from this mess. I learned that trust is fragile and that sometimes people hide their true selves behind a mask. I learned that even in the worst storms, literal and emotional, you have to find your strength to survive. Most of all, I learned that sometimes the only way to truly heal is to walk away from what's broken, no matter how much it hurts. I still think about her, about what we lost, but I also know I can't let her betrayal define me. I owe it to myself and my kids to move forward, to find some kind of peace amid the chaos. Now, looking back, I realize how much this whole ordeal changed me, how I see trust, fidelity, and even myself. I used to think marriage was about loyalty, about sticking through the tough times, but I've learned that sometimes the biggest betrayal comes from the people you love most. When you're hit with something like this, you start questioning everything, your judgment, your happiness, your future. And yet somehow I found strength I didn't know I had. The thing is, I don't hate her. I'm angry, sure. Hurt, absolutely. But I also understand that she's made her choices and they reflect who she is now. I've come to accept that some people aren't meant to be in your life forever, not because they're bad people, but because they're not the right people for you. I don't wish her ill. I just want her to be happy without hurting anyone else along the way. For me, this has been a hard but necessary lesson. I've learned to value myself more, to respect my boundaries, and to recognize the signs of betrayal before it's too late. I've also realized that the pain will fade eventually. It will never be easy, but I will heal. My kids are my priority now, and I focus on creating a future that's honest and built on real trust, something that can't be stolen or broken so easily. I've also come to see that even in the deepest chaos, like the tornado that tore through our community, there's a chance to rebuild. Not just houses or streets, but trust and hope piece by piece. This whole ordeal has taught me that sometimes walking away is the bravest thing you can do. That true strength isn't about fighting forever or denying what's real. It's about knowing when to let go, pick yourself up, and move on. So here I am, stronger and more cautious than before. I don't have all the answers, and I probably never will. But I do know this: I deserve honesty, loyalty, and respect. I refuse to settle for anything less. The betrayal hurt, it tore me apart for a while. But now I've built a new beginning out of the wreckage. And that, I believe, is the best revenge of all.